Welcome to Masonic Memories. Do you recognize any of the people in these pictures? Do you remember any of the events? Some of these people had prestigious positions in Grand Lodge. Others were wonderful ritualists, and others were the life of our parties. They all devoted a lifetime to our Masonic fraternity. Unfortunately, many were taken from us way too early. So sit back, grab a coffee, and listen to us reminisce about these amazing people who were such devoted members and contributed so much to our lodge. Today we're speaking with Laurence Sheldon Jaffe. Larry was raised in United Brethren Lodge on December 5, 1979, and has been an active member ever since. He was Tyler at United Brethren from 2010 to 2014, and has been Tyler at several other lodges that he belongs to. Larry is a member of the Shrine, a proud Mason, and a proud veteran of the United States Air Force. Hello, Larry.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
My eyes opened up, and the sun is out. What more can I ask for at 82?
Okay, we're here in your home and we're going to discuss your journey in Masonry. Shall we start with why you joined?
Well, that's an interesting question. Why did I join? I wanted simply to follow in my father's footsteps. I am a Worcester boy growing up here. My father was a member of the Alethea Grotto, and to this day I remember we used to take me and my sister to the auditorium to watch the circus. And I always wondered when I saw the Square and Compass Grotto magazine comes to our house, what this is all about. And, one day I was delivering some tires and talking to Dick Carini, past master of United Brethren, at his gas station, and I noticed that he had a Square and Compass ring on. And I asked him about that. And boy, did that open up the door. From then, it's been a beautiful 45 plus year journey in Freemasonry, and I love every minute of what I have accomplished in my life.
Excellent. Do you remember who you joined with or how many people you joined with?
Yes.
And what year was that?
I remember joining with Don Eastman and two other guys, which I don't remember their names and I don't recall if they're even still in the lodge. But Don and I have had a friendship every time we meet for dinner in a coalition.
Larry, it was Don McElvin.
Don McElvin, I'm sorry. It comes with age. But we used to sit together and kibitz. Later in life, I became a retiree volunteer for the military police at Hanscom, and Don was an insurance investigator for insurance companies, and we used to have some very livid conversations on active events. So the other two guys, I honestly don't remember, but I remember there's four of us, and I remember going through the Master Mason degree, the 3 doors, and it was an experience. It's a little changed now, but it was a lifting experience is probably the best words that I can use. You never forget that.
And you were Tyler for 4 or 5 years?
I was a Tyler. Perry and Leroy were the Tylers, both former corrections officers. And after they had passed to the Celestial Lodge, I said, gee, that's something I'd like to do. So I asked the master of the lodge, and I became the Tyler. I kept off Cowens and eavesdroppers, which was my main duty with my implement of my tools. I learned many, many years ago that when I was cross-training in the Air Force to the Air Force OSHA program, the instructor said, if you go by the book, you'll never get fired from your job. So I took it in earnest and would only admit a brother Mason into the lodge room if I knew them, or they presented their proper identification, which in this case, as the book says, a signed dues card. And that brings up an interesting point, because lots of guys get their dues card and they stick it in their wallet. And I have to remind them that it has to be signed to be an official card, to be entered into a Masonic lodge. Other than that, I just enjoyed greeting everybody that came into United Brethren, and I was a Tyler for the United Brethren, for the Consolidated Lodge, which is now the Henry Price Lodge, and also our Major General Henry Knox Lodge. It was a couple of years that I was a very busy beaver, shall we say. But I enjoy greeting every brother, shaking their hand and welcoming them. That really was the highlight of my tenure as a Tyler in the various lodges.
Who was master when you joined?
Dick Carini was the master of the lodge and raised me to the Master Mason degree. And I can hear his voice as clear as day in the back of my mind right now. I'll never forget him. There's many things that I will never forget in Masonry. It's been a wonderful journey for me and anybody that I've met. So many people.
What are some of those things you won't forget?
When I retired from the military, we took a train trip, my sons and I, from Worcester to LA to visit family. On the second half of the journey from New Orleans to LA, one of the conductors was a brother Mason, so I noticed his ring as he's coming through. My kids, my sons, which are now in their 40s, remember that day. That conductor took my two boys from the beginning of the train to the end of the train and gave them the tour of everything that most people will never see. And they really enjoyed that. One other thing that I want to mention is that in my military career, when I worked with or met a brother Mason, we were brothers. We were friends for life. And it was a lot of things that we had in common. There's so much that runs through my mind. I can't, I'm getting too old.
Well, I know you're a proud veteran of the Air Force, and you met a lot of Masons in that journey in the Air Force.
When I worked up at Hanscom, if I saw a Masonic emblem on the car, I used to wait until the person came out of the BX, and then I would walk up and introduce myself to them. I worked at Hanscom for about 11 years for the security forces, and there were several senior and chief master sergeants in our unit that were brother Masons, and we, from different parts of the country, we used to talk and compare notes. Masonry in itself is the same. Ritual is the same with slight various wording variations. And we used to discuss various customs. And I, in my travels to the Netherlands, to Germany, to Israel, would visit. And again, Freemasonry is the same, but the customs of different parts of the country and the globe, just slight variations in placements. It's quite interesting. And I want to relate, when my son Daniel met an Israeli and married her, and they moved to Jerusalem a couple of weeks after they got married. I went to the Masonic Lodge there, Holy City number 4. It's the only English-speaking lodge. Before you are admitted into that lodge, you have to be investigated. Besides sending my credentials via email. One of the past masters, actually, he was a district deputy, and I met for coffee at a cafe, and we discussed Freemasonry, and it was quite interesting. He asked me questions that, just to make sure that I was true Mason. And the same thing occurred when I went to Amsterdam. One of the past masters interviewed me, and actually my wife came along with us, and she departed. And when she departed, he asked me the various Masonic questions to verify that I was a true blood Mason. And I got to tell you, in both lodges, everybody was interested to hear about Masonry in the United States. It was quite an experience. And I remember this, one of the subsequent visits to Jerusalem, we met, and there was a brother from South Africa, and he went through the same ritual as I did. Met for coffee, we discussed Freemasonry, and it was just quite an experience. I remember the first time in Jerusalem, after the lodge, they go to dinner. They have a collation at a restaurant. I didn't have any shekels. All I had was American money. No problem, Larry. They paid for it, and they said, just pay me next time we meet. No problem. But this is what Masonry is all about. And for the younger brothers, I want to relate a couple of stories that really are true to my heart. 3 years after I retired from the Air Force, I came down with a rare virus called Guillain-Barré. I was out for about a year. Long story short, when I was in rehab up in, not Wilmington, someplace in the North Shore, I remember several times brothers from United Brethren, when I was able to at least be cognizant, and I had to learn how to walk and eat and just bodily functions. They came up and visited me. That really turned, that's what Masonry is all about, friendship and brotherly love. My father of blessed memory was a brother of Athelstan Lodge, and the proudest moment I had of being at United Brethren was sitting in lodge with my father before he passed and introducing him. I forgot who the master was, but introducing him to the lodge as my father. And when he was in the Jewish home, as he had Parkinson's, he got visited by his lodge during the Christmas holidays. And you could see the shining in his eyes when the brothers visited him. And I mentioned this to worshipful brother Bob Archambault. And I remember for a couple of years, I accompanied Bob. We went all around Marlborough and Hudson to some of the brothers that were not able to make it to lodge, that were physically incapacitated or with other circumstances. And you could see the sparkle in their eyes and the shine in their face when we would come and just to welcome them and say hello. That's what Masonry is all about. Another important thing that I want to dwell upon is, when it hasn't happened lately, but I remember United Brethren, we used to meet, I think it was on a Sunday morning, in a baseball field near Marlborough Hospital, and we used to play softball. I could never hit the ball, but I was always there. We used to live in Northborough at the time, and we used to have a ball doing that. There's so many various activities that the younger guys are the lifeblood of our lodge, and I really hope that they keep going.
Larry, I asked this of everybody. Who was the best ritualist you've heard?
Without a doubt, Dick Johnson. Dick Johnson was excellent, but I got to tell you, I attended the April communication for the Fellowcraft degree, and I was amazed that the ritual was perfect. It was really word for word, and I really enjoyed sitting there. But Dick was flawless, and I asked him about that one time, and he said when I used to go from Northborough to Acton, I used to practice all the time in the car, talking. But I hope he doesn't knock me for that for the next Beefeaters meeting we have.
I think you and I first met when you had a tire store.
Oh yeah.
And I know it changed locations. I met it when it was on Granger Boulevard, took the
Yeah.
place of where it is. I remember you helping me with a flat. I think that might have even been before you were a Mason. I'm not sure. That was
I think
was a
so.
teenager, yeah.
I think so.
And then you for a long time you were in the tire business, and I know a brother that we both love. He was a worshipful master. I used to come and visit you. Can you explain why he would come and visit you in your tire store, and who it was?
Worshipful Bob Archibald. Bob and I developed an interesting relationship besides going for the Christmas baskets, and I was his tiler while he was sitting in the East. We, how do I put this gently? Bob on his way home had to do paperwork, and he would stop, and I would offer him showed him how to get the Coke out of the Coke machine in the store without, with using his hands. And he used to use the bathroom, and he used to use my office as his second office to take care of his Stanley elevator duties, paperwork. But we developed a very interesting relationship. And we did that. He did that for years until I sold the business. I sold the property.
Do you happen to remember the 1975 fire?
Yes, I don't remember the fire per se, but my original tire store was one block up, just as you round the bend on West Main Street, number 22, from where the Lodge and Jobbers Outlet was. And I remember afterwards because of the talk, but I was not a Mason and I did not remember it. And I don't know what else to say.
I know you spent years in the tire business, but I know afterwards you got a job that you enjoyed, and I love to hear the stories you would tell of being a doorman. You were in Worcester, and then I think you got a better, more prestigious job in Boston. Can you talk about how that transpired?
Well, Paula was in the Air Force at the time, and she was at the Tennessee, I think it was, in Nashville, yeah. Anyway, she was at a military medical conference with one of the other nurses from her unit, and the bell person there was a retired master sergeant from the Air Force. How she knew, I don't know. But she came back and she said, that's a good job for you, Larry. So I went down to the Crown Plaza, because I wasn't doing anything after I sold the property. I basically got burnt out at the time. I think I was in there for over 20 years as a tire store. That and mixing with my military duties, I really got burnt out. So I went down to the Crown Plaza and I applied there, and I worked there for about a year. And it was interesting because I met a lot of people, and I helped them in their reception from a long trip, getting settled into the hotel. But the tips weren't that great, and I had heard some interesting stories about working in Boston, so I decided to try it in Boston. And I applied to the Swiss Hotel there, which was part of the Swiss Air Group at the time. It was an international hotel with 500 rooms versus 100 rooms. So I had more opportunity to earn tips because salary-wise, it's only a couple bucks an hour. So I joined there, and that was actually a very satisfactory job. I did that for about 10, 11 years. I would meet people from all parts of the country, and I would make their day by just being congenial and respectful of their customs, taking their luggage to the room, explaining to them if they had any questions at all. And yes, I get remunerated, but I got to tell you, if I saw a Brother Mason or with a ring, if I saw a Masonic emblem on their hand, anything you want to know, what can I do for you to make your stay more comfortable? It really opened up doors. I really enjoyed working as a bellman and a front doorman. People would ask me questions, and you could see, and I got compliments when I would tell them my personal experiences. Try this place or try that place. And, I've been there with my wife, or I've done this or I've done that, or I could give them directions in Boston on different places they wanted to go. And that was very gratifying for me and also for the guests that I was helping. But I got to tell you, the commute though was tough on the train. It was about an hour and a half each way. So I had some interesting experiences there. I made a lot of friends, and we'll just leave it like that. I don't regret. I just enjoyed my time there.
I was speaking with Gary Brown, and he told me that you and he had a very pleasant and memorable event when you went to a Prince Hall meeting.
Yes. We went one evening to Prince Hall, and we were received very, very welcoming by the Brothers of Prince Hall. The ritual work of the evening, pretty much the same as what ours was. However, the comradeship, the friendship, second to none. It was above, I can't say enough on how we were greeted and treated and respected while we were there. And to this day, several of the guys that were Prince Hall members from my military service, it's just a friendship that you never forget.
Do you remember what year that was that you went in Prince Hall Lodge?
I would say late 70s, early 80s. I honestly don't. It was a while ago. I haven't had the occasion, but I would welcome going. Again, if somebody wanted to say, hey, Larry, you want to go? Well, my mobility kind of sucks, but if you can put up with my slow walking, I'll go.
I always ask this, were any humorous events in Masonry that you remember that stick out?
Only one. Actually, 1.5. Before COVID, for at least 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, we used to go in the wintertime for a week to 10 days down to Tampa. MacDill Air Force Base is on the peninsula. They have a beautiful beach there, right at the tip. And all the pencil suckers are working. So all you get is retirees and a couple of dependents and kids. But beautiful beach. And I used to take pictures and send back to a couple of my brothers from United Brethren and other lodges and say, hey guys, missing you, come on down. We really enjoyed that time frame. And I used to get a kick out of showing the beautiful weather, palm trees, and just saying, it's 20 below zero up in Marlboro, but it isn't that way here. The other thing that I want to mention is one of my trips down there, one of the United Brethren meetings, there was a collation of pizzas at the end of the meeting. And for whatever reason, the door was not manned properly. And in time, in the evening, some guy walked in and was immediately kicked out, walked through the doors with a load of pizzas in his hand, wanted to know where to bring the pizzas to. So to me, that was funny, literally. But other than that, those are the only two things that stick in my mind.
Do you have any advice for new masons?
Get involved in line. You're the lifeblood. I'm 82 years old, but I got to tell you, in my 40s and 50s and 60s, I did as much as I could as Tyler, or, I started off as Inside Sentinel when we lived in Northborough, but the kids were young, and it was just taking too much time to go to rehearsals because my wife was working in the military, and I was the chief. I had to take care of the kids, so I dropped out of line. But I did as much as I can, and it behooves you to stay involved. Come to the meetings. I used to enjoy, I can't do it now, but I used to enjoy going for the Wednesday morning breakfasts and kibitzing with the guys. Get involved in the activities. There's so much that you can get out of masonry that I can't put my thoughts in words, really.
Larry, I had a wonderful afternoon here with you. Is there anything else or anyone else you want to talk about or anything else you want to say before we call it a day?
The only thing that I want to reiterate is, and I'm very adamant about this, and I'm very enthusiastic. When I come to lodge and I see faces that I don't recognize from the olden days, tells me that the lodge is growing. Get involved. Do whatever it is that needs to be done on a committee. If you want to go online, inline, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful experience, and it's a mitzvah, as you say in Yiddish, to do this, to be involved in the Masonic fraternity. You'll meet people that you'll never believe that you've known before. That just unbelievable, such greatness of people. And if you were to call me up at 2:00 in the morning or 3:00 and say, Larry, I got a flat tire out here, or I need $100. Where are you? I'll be right there. I don't care what time of day it is, but that's what this fraternity is about. It's about friendship and brotherly love, and nothing changes whether you're an entered apprentice, been a Mason for 6 months, 46 years like me, or whatever. You're all the same. And I would do it for anyone, and you would do it for me if that occasion occurred. And that's all I can say. I'm looking forward to sitting in lodge more, that my health continues and my balance stays. I have an interesting cane that I bought. If I can dwell upon this for 1 second more, I am a member of Eureka number 84 Lodge up in Thomaston, Maine. When I tiled for Henry Knox Lodge, one of the past masters said to me, Larry, you're up here so much. Why don't you just move up here? I said, no, I don't want to move up here. I like it in Worcester. But I joined anyways. And there's a prison store in Thomaston, Maine. And they make wood products in the various jails or corrections institutions. And I got a beautiful cane that I get compliments all over. One of the past masters of the Masonic Orient Lodge in Thomaston, Maine, is the manager of this store. We've had some, we go up there all the time, and I always stop in there, and we always have a nice conversation about Freemasonry, what's your lodge doing? But we're perfect strangers, but we're Masons and we're brothers, so we're not perfect strangers anymore. The cipher book, I remember years and years ago, after my father had passed, cleaning out his drawers, etc., I found his Masonic ring and his cipher book. His cipher book was literally the old cipher book. And I learned to read. I unfortunately, when we moved from Northborough to Worcester, it's been misplaced. It's someplace, but I have yet to find it. And I cherished if I could find it. But I learned the cipher book. I used to take it when I was sitting in lodge, and I would read the cipher book in the symbols as versus what was being said during the work of the evening. And I really enjoyed that part of Freemasonry from the old school. It wasn't in English, you guys, it was all in symbols. And you had to learn the symbols to learn what is said. And I found that very rewarding.
Good. Thank you again, Larry.
My pleasure.
That was an enjoyable discussion with a wonderful Mason. I'm sure you could hear the passion in his voice. Stay tuned as we have more such discussions with members of our fraternity.